Well, there it is. Breaking news. The Philadelphia 76ers will have a first-round draft pick in this upcoming NBA draft. This is massive for the Sixers. The first domino of the offseason has officially fallen, and we have a lot to break down on today's show. Let's go. Perfect. What is going on, everybody? RB here. Welcome into Philly Take with RB. You know what to do. Hit the like button if you do enjoy this content. Subscribe if you are new to the channel, and be sure to ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos or live streams. We have been talking about this topic for about, 4 or 5 days, maybe a week now. We have been anticipating. It's been rumored, but today it feels good to finally say the news, and that is that the Sixers will retain their first-round draft pick in the 2022 NBA draft. According to Woj, ESPN sources say the Brooklyn Nets are deferring acquisition of the Philadelphia 76ers 2022 first-round pick at number 23 of the 2023 NBA draft. The option on pushing back the pick comes out of the James Harden Ben Simmons trade. The Nets had to inform the league office of the decision today, and I believe it came out around 5 p.m. And of course, this is huge news for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, in addition to that, Adrian Wojnarowski says the Sixers keep number 23 for this June's draft. The Nets get the 2023 pick for use in future trades or to make for themselves. The Nets can hope that the pick moves up based on the success of the Sixers. Basically, if we were to do bad, somehow that could potentially move up. But at the end of the day, my reaction to this is pretty much everything that we've been saying in anticipation, and that is the Sixers made out like bandits here. They really did. First and foremost, that Ben Simmons-James Harden trade, we know how it all went down. I'm not going to sit here and say the Sixers, ended up on a perfect note, but what I will say is that the Sixers, in my eyes, have now finessed the Nets more than I even thought that they did. And let me explain. So the Sixers, get rid of that contract, all right, that Ben Simmons contract. They bring in a guy. Obviously, he did not play up to par. He, kind of bottomed out and he hurt our team. But at the end of the day, looking forward, right, look at both sides, how the trade worked out. Number one, the Sixers have a guy who has shown dominance before, and, they can hope he can get healthier, right? They hope he can get in the gym and work out and get back to himself a little bit. And even if he doesn't, well, guess what? The Sixers can say bye-bye. They can let him go. They can let him walk. Or they can sign him to a lower contract and then trade him. Meanwhile, on the other hand, the Brooklyn Nets have a guy who, one, fails to get better, is unwilling to get better, and number two, doesn't even play. So, looking at the whole trade, obviously Andre Drummond is a free agent, and that didn't really make much of an impact. Seth Curry definitely hurts. But, I remember a lot of people strictly complaining about the fact that the Sixers were not going to have an upcoming pick in this draft when the trade had happened. And look, here we are. What a beautiful clause to throw into a contract. And, now the Sixers have a trade chip. And this is the more important thing in terms of the Philadelphia 76ers. This is why I am so ecstatic right now. Not only can we kick off the draft coverage, right? Because now, in the coming weeks and months, we have to get ready for the NBA draft because the Sixers have a selection. And not only is it, a number 29, number 30 pick. No, the Sixers actually won a two-way tiebreaker. I believe it was with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. And now, they get the number 23 pick. And we know, and we've seen the last couple years, right, in the early 20s, there have been quality players that have gone. For example, Tyrese Maxey. I know that was a weird year, but even a guy like Desmond Bane in the 20s went, And at the end of the day, the Sixers now have another piece. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, this is one of the most important off seasons in a very, very long time. This Sixers team needs to be reshaped. They need to put themselves, in that window, in that contention, and also get better for the future. And when I look at the Philadelphia 76ers, now they have a piece to work with. We started talking yesterday about some trades and things like that. The Sixers not only can go out and select a quality player, hopefully at number 23, but if they want to, and based off what happens if we make a couple trades this offseason, Daryl Morey can use this pick as leverage. You can go out and get an established veteran. You can go out and get a shooter, a wing, whatever you desire, and you can use that in terms of a trade, or maybe even trying to offload a contract. Like, this is just another great asset to have for the Sixers, and I think it is huge. And, you know, initially when they had reported this months ago and going throughout, nobody ever thought the Nets would end up deferring this pick to the Philadelphia 76ers and using it for next year. Now, I know what you're going to say, RB. How did the Sixers finesse the Nets if they're not going to have their pick next year? That is totally fine. And looking next year, my way to look at it is, if the Sixers don't get better this year, if they don't drastically improve and now have another chip like that to use, the next year we are screwed anyway. And we might even have to go in a different direction as a franchise. And with this being one of the most essential off seasons, you need to have a draft pick that you can kind of, have a leverage play with. And, I just think in terms of looking at it from the Brooklyn Nets side, not that I care, but just my honest opinion, I don't think the Nets are confident about their future. I really don't think so. Obviously, we've been hearing all the rumors regarding Kyrie Irving and maybe he will leave, and Kevin Durant, right? And that whole thing going on. And then you got Ben Simmons. In my eyes, I don't even know if the Nets view themselves as confident about their own future. And maybe they are trying to, have a future asset that they can either move or go ahead and take a quality player with and maybe move up a little bit in the draft, because maybe they're not even confident about their core. And I think that's where this comes in, because why would the Nets go ahead and give the Sixers the right to go ahead and take someone at number 23? At the end of the day, I think the Sixers honestly made out like bandits with this. And the trade even looks better in my eyes. It really does. Obviously, nobody really thought about it at the time. I know the other draft pick is in, 2027? And that one can even defer to 2028, I believe. So, I think the Sixers made out well with this. I think it fills needs. And I think when you look at it overall, we now have a lot more firepower. And again, now I think, especially when the season starts to wind down and once the NBA Finals finishes, I think the Sixers, the rumor mill is going to start heating up. We're going to start hearing a lot of whispers, a lot of conversations. Sure, we have a lot to break down on the show. I've been looking at free agents and stuff. I've been watching some draft stuff, but I wanted to confirm that the Sixers were going to have a draft pick. And I know people are kind of saying this isn't as good of a draft. Well, let me tell you something. There are quality players every year in the draft. You look at even the last couple of years, even a guy like Bones Highland comes to my head, and look how he was contributing for the Denver Nuggets. The Sixers don't need to go out and draft a 17-year-old. No, they need to go out and either draft a 21, 22-year-old who can contribute from day one, or they need to use this pick and go out and get an established role bench player, whatever, maybe use it in a trade for another starter, and go out and get pieces that are ready to win right now. But I just think having this ammo really, really helps this team. And I think it's going to ignite a series of moves, or at least thoughts, in terms of different angles that this team can go throughout the offseason with. And I think it's huge. I really do think it's huge. And, again, it's been anticipated for about a week now, but just hearing it, I think the Sixers are going to be on the right track now. And if they screw this up, you can't say that we didn't have pieces to try to move. You can't say that we didn't have an attempt, because, again, now looking towards the future, you have big salaries, and Tyrese Maxey's going to end up getting paid. But, the whole James Harden thing is going to determine a lot. What happens with Tobias Harris is going to determine a lot. And, let's just say the Sixers didn't have a draft pick. It would be pretty hard to maneuver some of these moves and even try to trade some of these guys, or even try to look in a different direction and reshape and reconstruct your roster without having a lot of assets. So I think this works out magically for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now it all flips to Daryl Morey. What will the strategy be? What will we do? If you've been watching this channel religiously, you know that I feel we need to go out and get more complementary players, more bench guys. Looking at the playoffs, look at how these teams are built, look at the kind of DNA that they have. It is time for the Sixers to go out and put the best pieces around Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid in terms of role guys who will not take too much of the shine, but will show up and do their job every night and be effective players, especially come playoff time. And this is huge. This is huge. And now we have a lot to work with. Hey, even if we get a young guy in here who can ball, right? Even if we get another steal in the draft, say, I'd be happy with that too. But we will wait and see what happens. The Sixers are now on the clock at number 23. If you have anybody you think they should go out and target, let me know down below. Like I said, we'll have a lot of draft coverage coming up now, and we will be discussing it all, breaking it all down as we always do every offseason. With that being said, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And like always, I will catch you on the next one, man. Peace.
Perfect.